The hardest part about starting over isn't having nothing. It's believing tomorrow can still be better than today. On a gray Tuesday morning in Columbus, Ohio, Emily Carter stared at the email glowing on her laptop screen and felt her stomach sink. After 6 years with the company, her position had been eliminated. The message was polite, professional, and painfully short. Just like that, the paycheck she depended on was gone. Emily slowly closed the laptop and looked across the small apartment where her 8-year-old daughter, Lily, sat coloring at the kitchen table. Lily glanced up with a bright smile that made Emily's heart ache. She couldn't let her daughter see how scared she was. Bills were already piling up. Rent was due in less than 2 weeks. The grocery budget had been stretched so thin that Emily had started skipping meals without mentioning it. Yet every morning, she still found a way to smile for Lily. "Everything okay, Mom?" Lily asked. Emily forced a gentle smile. "Everything's fine, sweetheart." It wasn't a lie she enjoyed telling, but it was one she had become very good at. After dropping Lily off at school, Emily spent the morning applying for jobs from coffee shops with free Wi-Fi. By early afternoon, she had submitted more applications than she could count and received exactly 0 responses. Exhausted and discouraged, she finally headed home. That was when her aging sedan began making a strange rattling noise. Emily tightened her grip on the steering wheel. "Not today," she whispered. The car sputtered once. Then again. A few seconds later, it rolled to a stop on the side of the road. Emily leaned her forehead against the wheel and closed her eyes. It felt like the universe had decided she hadn't been tested enough for one day. She stepped out of the car and looked around. The street was quiet except for a small auto repair shop sitting half a block away. The faded sign above the garage door read Brooks Auto Repair. Emily hesitated. She barely had enough money for groceries, let alone car repairs. Still, she had no choice. She started walking toward the garage. Inside, the scent of motor oil mixed with the sound of tools clinking against metal. A tall man in a work shirt looked up from under the hood of a pickup truck. He had dark hair, calm blue eyes, and an easy confidence that immediately stood out. "Need some help?" he asked. Emily nodded. "My car broke down. I'm honestly hoping it's something small." The man wiped his hands with a shop towel and offered a reassuring smile. "Let's take a look." Something about his voice made her feel a little less overwhelmed. Emily watched as he walked toward her car with steady, unhurried steps. She had no idea that this simple moment, on what felt like the worst day of her life, was about to change everything. Emily stood beside her car while the mechanic crouched near the front wheel, listening carefully as the engine clicked and cooled. A few minutes later, he lifted the hood and examined several components with practiced ease. She expected the familiar look she had seen from repair shops before, the one that usually came right before an expensive estimate. Instead, he simply nodded. "I think I found the problem." Emily folded her arms nervously. "How bad is it?" The man smiled. "Not nearly as bad as you think." Relief washed over her face, though she tried not to show it too quickly. Really? A worn connection and a part that needs replacing. Nothing major." Emily hesitated before asking the question she feared most. "How much is it going to cost?" He glanced at her for a moment, almost as if he could see the stress she had been carrying all day. "A lot less than replacing an engine, which is what some places might try to convince you." The comment caught her off guard and earned a small laugh she had not expected to give. Less than an hour later, the repair was finished. When he handed her the invoice, Emily stared at the number in disbelief. It was far lower than she had prepared herself for. "This cannot be right," she said. "It is," he replied. "You only needed a simple fix." Emily looked at the bill and then back at him. Most places would have charged much more. Most places are not Brooks Auto Repair. For the first time that day, she genuinely smiled. "Thank you. I do not think I caught your name." "Ethan. Ethan Brooks." "I am." "Emily." He nodded. "Nice to meet you, Emily." Just then her phone buzzed. The screen showed a call from Lily's school. Emily answered immediately, concern tightening her voice. After a brief conversation, she thanked the caller and ended the call. Ethan noticed the worry in her expression. "Everything okay?" "My daughter is fine. I am just running late picking her up." Ethan glanced at the clock. "The elementary school 3 blocks away?" Emily looked surprised. "Yes. You should probably leave now. The pickup line gets pretty long." 20 minutes later, Emily pulled into the school parking lot with only a few minutes to spare. Lily climbed into the back seat, carrying her backpack almost as large as she was. "Mom, the car works again," she said excitedly. "It does. Did somebody fix it?" Emily found herself smiling. "A mechanic named Ethan helped us out." Lily nodded seriously. "Then I think he is a hero." The comment made Emily laugh. Over the next few days, she focused on job applications and interviews that seemed to lead nowhere. Then, late Friday afternoon, another problem appeared. A warning light flashed on her dashboard. Her heart immediately sank. She almost turned around and headed home. Instead, she drove back to Brooks Auto Repair. As she pulled into the lot, Ethan looked up from his work and smiled as if he had been expecting her. For some reason she could not explain, the sight of him made the difficult week feel just a little easier to carry. When Emily stepped into Brooks Auto Repair again, she expected bad news and another expense she could not afford. Instead, Ethan plugged a diagnostic tool into her car, studied the results for a few minutes, and shook his head. "Nothing serious," he said. "A sensor is acting up. Your car is safe to drive." Emily let out a long breath. "You have no idea how much I needed to hear that." Ethan smiled. "I have a feeling you have had a rough couple of weeks." Emily laughed softly. "That obvious?" "A little." He fixed the issue in less than 20 minutes and once again charged her almost nothing. As she prepared to leave, Ethan surprised her. "Have you found a new job yet?" Emily hesitated. "Not yet." "You will." The confidence in his voice sounded genuine. Not forced. Not polite. Genuine. Somehow that meant more than he probably realized. Over the next several weeks, Emily found herself stopping by the garage more often than necessary. Sometimes she had a question about the car. Sometimes she simply happened to be driving nearby. At least that was what she told herself. Ethan never seemed surprised to see her. Their conversations became longer. They talked about favorite movies, childhood memories, and the challenges of adulthood that nobody prepared you for. For the first time in years, Emily found herself looking forward to seeing someone. One Saturday morning, she arrived with Lily sitting in the passenger seat. The moment Lily spotted Ethan, her face lit up. "Mom, that is him," she whispered excitedly. Ethan waved. "You must be Lily. You remembered my name?" Lily asked. "Of course." That single answer immediately earned her trust. While Ethan finished helping another customer, Lily sat on a stool nearby drawing pictures. A few minutes later, she walked over and handed him a sheet of paper. "This is for you." Ethan studied the drawing. It showed a bright red car, a smiling little girl, and a mechanic wearing a blue work shirt. "This is amazing," he said. "I think this belongs on the wall." Lily beamed with pride as Ethan carefully taped the picture inside the office where everyone could see it. Emily watched the interaction quietly. There was something natural about the way Ethan treated her daughter. He never talked down to her. He listened. He paid attention. He made her feel important. That evening, after they left, Lily stared out the car window for several minutes before speaking. "Mom." "Yes." "Mr. Ethan is nice." Emily smiled. "He is. He kind of makes people feel better." The observation caught Emily off guard because it was exactly what she had been thinking. During the following days, strange little details began catching her attention. Ethan was a mechanic, yet occasionally expensive-looking vehicles appeared near the garage. Once, she noticed a man in an expensive suit stop by briefly. Another time, Ethan received a phone call and stepped outside to take it in private. When he returned, his expression had been thoughtful, almost distracted. Emily brushed the observations aside. Everyone had a life beyond work. Still, she could not ignore the growing sense that there was more to Ethan Brooks than he allowed people to see. And somehow, that mystery only made her want to know him better. The following week brought a small piece of good news Emily had almost stopped hoping for. After dozens of applications and interviews, she finally received an offer for an administrative position at a local logistics company. The salary was not amazing, but it was enough to keep her family moving forward. That evening, she stopped by Brooks Auto Repair to share the news. Ethan was finishing work on a customer vehicle when she walked into the garage. The moment he saw her smile, he seemed to know something had changed. "You got the job," he said. Emily laughed. "How did you know?" "Because that is the first real smile I have seen from you in weeks." She shook her head. "You might be more observant than any mechanic I have ever met." Ethan smiled but did not answer. Instead, he congratulated her and listened as she described the new position. As usual, he seemed genuinely interested in every detail. Over the next month, life gradually became more stable. Emily adjusted to her new job, while Lily settled into a comfortable routine at school. Whenever unexpected problems appeared, Ethan somehow seemed to show up at exactly the right moment. One afternoon, when heavy rain started just as Emily left work without an umbrella, she discovered Ethan waiting outside a nearby coffee shop. Another time, when she struggled to carry several boxes into her apartment building, he appeared and offered help before she even asked. It was becoming almost impossible to ignore how frequently their paths crossed. "Mom," Lily said one evening while finishing her homework, "I think Mr. Ethan likes you." Emily nearly dropped the dish she was washing. "What makes you think that?" "Because he smiles differently when he talks to you." Emily laughed, but the comment stayed in her mind longer than she expected. A few days later, she met her older sister Rachel for lunch. The conversation eventually turned toward Ethan. "So this mechanic," Rachel said, stirring her iced tea. "How serious is this becoming?" Emily felt her cheeks warm slightly. "We are friends." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Friends who spend a lot of time together?" "Maybe." "Emily, you deserve someone successful. Someone established." The words immediately bothered her. "Ethan works hard." "I am not saying he does not," Rachel replied. "I am just saying you should think about your future." Emily changed the subject, but the conversation left an uncomfortable feeling behind. Later that week, she visited the garage and found Ethan speaking with another well-dressed man near the office. The stranger wore an expensive suit that looked completely out of place in the repair shop. The moment Ethan noticed Emily arriving, the conversation ended. The man nodded respectfully before leaving. As he walked away, Emily noticed something else. The luxury sedan waiting for him probably cost more than most people earned in several years. Ethan returned with his usual calm smile. "Everything okay?" Emily asked casually. "Of course." His answer came quickly, yet something about it felt incomplete. For the first time, she began wondering whether the mystery surrounding Ethan was far bigger than she had imagined. And somewhere deep down, she sensed that the truth was getting closer. As autumn settled over Columbus, the friendship between Emily and Ethan deepened into something neither of them could easily ignore. What started as casual conversations at the garage had become regular dinners at small family restaurants, walks through neighborhood parks, and evenings spent laughing over stories from their pasts. The best part, at least according to Lily, was that Ethan always made ordinary days feel special. One Saturday afternoon, the three of them attended a local fall festival. Lily spent nearly an hour trying to win a giant stuffed bear from a game booth. After several unsuccessful attempts, she crossed her arms dramatically. "I think this game is impossible." Ethan smiled and stepped forward. Impossible is a strong word. A few moments later, he managed to win the prize. Lily ran toward him with excitement and wrapped her arms around his waist. "You are amazing." Emily watched the scene with a warmth she had not felt in years. For so long, it had been just her and Lily against the world. Seeing her daughter so happy stirred emotions she had been afraid to acknowledge. Later that evening, after Lily fell asleep in the back seat during the drive home, Ethan and Emily sat quietly outside her apartment building. The city lights reflected softly across the windshield. Neither seemed eager to end the night. "You know," Emily said, "for a long time I thought life was just about getting through the next day." Ethan turned toward her. "And now I actually look forward to things again." His expression softened. "I am glad." Their eyes met for a brief moment that felt longer than it should have. Emily looked away first, her heart beating faster than she cared to admit. Over the following weeks, their connection continued to grow. Yet the strange mysteries surrounding Ethan never completely disappeared. One afternoon, Emily stopped by the garage unexpectedly and found it temporarily closed. Through the office window, she caught sight of Ethan sitting alone reviewing documents spread across a large conference table. They looked nothing like repair invoices. Several pages contained charts, reports, and financial figures. Before she could get a better look, he noticed her and quickly gathered everything into a folder. Another time, she overheard part of a phone conversation as she approached the building. Ethan's tone was calm but authoritative. "Delay the meeting until next week," he said. "No decisions get approved until I review them personally." The words sounded less like a mechanic and more like someone accustomed to giving orders. When he noticed Emily nearby, the conversation ended immediately. Still, whenever she asked questions, He gently redirected the topic without appearing secretive. It should have frustrated her. Instead, it only increased her curiosity. Then came the invitation that would change everything. Emily's sister Rachel called one evening with exciting news. Their parents were hosting a large anniversary celebration the following weekend. Family members from several states would be attending. And before you ask, Rachel added, yes, you should bring Ethan. Emily hesitated. She knew her family. Some of them had strong opinions about success, money, and social status. Ethan sensed her concern when she told him about the event the next day. You do not have to invite me if it makes things complicated, he said. Emily shook her head. I want you there. A small smile appeared on Ethan's face. Then I will be there. Neither of them realized that the upcoming celebration would place their relationship under a spotlight neither could avoid and bring hidden truths dangerously close to the surface. The anniversary celebration was held at a large banquet hall on the north side of Columbus. Emily spent most of the afternoon helping her parents prepare, while Lily excitedly greeted relatives she had not seen in years. As the guests arrived, the room quickly filled with laughter, conversations, and the familiar energy that came with large family gatherings. When Ethan finally walked through the entrance, dressed neatly in a simple dark suit, several heads turned. Emily immediately noticed the difference in reaction compared to the warm welcome her family usually gave close friends. People were polite, but there was a distance in their smiles. Ethan handled it with his usual calm confidence. He shook hands, introduced himself, and treated everyone with respect. For a while, the evening seemed to be going well. Then Rachel's husband, Brian, began asking questions. So, Ethan, he said loudly enough for several nearby guests to hear. Emily tells us you work on cars. That is right, Ethan replied. I own a repair shop. Brian nodded slowly. Interesting. The words sounded less like a compliment and more like a judgment. A few people exchanged glances. Business must be tough these days, another relative commented. Ethan simply smiled. Every profession has its challenges. Emily could feel the direction of the conversation and immediately disliked it. Unfortunately, it only became worse. Brian spent the next several minutes talking about investment properties, executive salaries, and luxury vacations. Each topic seemed carefully chosen. Each question seemed designed to remind everyone of the difference between his career and Ethan's. Through it all, Ethan remained polite. He never argued. He never tried to impress anyone. He simply answered honestly and moved on. The situation reached its most uncomfortable moment during dinner. One relative asked Emily whether she planned to settle down again someday. Before she could answer, Brian laughed lightly. Well, if she does, hopefully she finds someone who can give her and Lily a more secure future. The table fell silent. Emily stared at him in disbelief. Rachel looked embarrassed. Several guests suddenly became very interested in their food. Ethan remained completely composed, but Emily could see the brief shadow pass through his eyes. That is enough, she said firmly. Everyone looked toward her. Ethan has been one of the kindest people I have ever met. He has helped me more than anyone at this table knows. I am not interested in judging people by their job titles or bank accounts. The silence that followed felt heavy. Ethan looked at her with quiet appreciation. For the rest of the evening, the conversation slowly recovered, but the damage had already been done. Later, as the event ended and guests began leaving, Lily slipped her hand into Ethan's. I am glad you came, she said. Ethan smiled. So am I. Outside the hall, Emily apologized for her family's behavior. Ethan shook his head. You do not owe me an apology. Still, they were unfair. Ethan looked toward the city lights in the distance before answering. Sometimes people only see what they expect to see. His words lingered in Emily's mind during the drive home. What she did not know was that less than 24 hours later, everyone who had underestimated Ethan would discover just how wrong they had been. The next morning began like any other workday. Emily arrived at the logistics company shortly before 8 o'clock, carrying a coffee and reviewing her schedule for the day. Around mid-morning, her supervisor unexpectedly approached her desk. Emily, I need you to deliver these documents to a corporate partner downtown. They are expecting them before noon. She agreed and gathered the files. The address led to one of the most recognizable office towers in Columbus, a glass and steel building that dominated the skyline. Emily had passed it countless times, but had never been inside. Upon arriving, She stepped into a massive lobby filled with marble floors, elegant artwork, and employees moving with purpose. A receptionist greeted her and directed her to the executive conference level. As the elevator climbed higher and higher, Emily felt slightly out of place. When the doors opened, she followed signs toward a large boardroom where an important meeting appeared to be underway. The assistant waiting outside accepted the documents and thanked her. Emily was preparing to leave when the conference room doors suddenly opened. Several executives stepped out, speaking quietly among themselves. Then the entire hallway seemed to pause. Emily froze. Walking directly toward her was Ethan. But this was not the Ethan she knew from the repair shop. He was wearing an impeccably tailored suit. Behind him followed a group of senior executives, all listening attentively as he spoke. One of them handed him a tablet. Another waited for his approval before answering a question. The confidence he carried was the same, but everything else felt completely different. "Ethan," Emily whispered. He stopped immediately. For a brief moment, surprise crossed his face. The executives exchanged curious glances. Then one of them spoke. "Mr. Brooks, the board is waiting for your final decision." Emily felt her heart skip a beat. "Mr. Brooks." The words echoed in her mind. She slowly turned toward the conference room, where a large display screen showed the company logo. Beneath it appeared the name of the corporation, one of the largest privately owned business groups in the region. At the bottom of the presentation was a photograph she instantly recognized. Ethan Brooks, founder and chief executive officer. Emily stared at the screen in disbelief. Suddenly, every strange detail from the past months rushed back into her memory. The expensive vehicles, the private meetings, the financial reports, the executives who treated him with obvious respect. None of it had been random. "Emily," Ethan said quietly. Before she could respond, another executive approached. "Congratulations on the acquisition, sir. The market is already responding positively." Acquisition, market, executive board. The conversation sounded like a completely different world. Emily looked from the executives to Ethan and back again. The man she thought was a small business mechanic was apparently one of the most powerful business leaders in the state. At that exact moment, her phone buzzed. A message from Rachel appeared on the screen. Attached was a news article featuring Ethan's photograph on the front page of a business publication. The headline described him as a billionaire entrepreneur known for transforming struggling companies into industry leaders. Emily felt the room spin. The truth was finally standing directly in front of her. And the biggest shock was not that Ethan was wealthy. It was that the man she had trusted most had never told her who he really was. Emily left the building in a daze. The city around her looked exactly the same, yet everything felt different. For months, she had believed she knew Ethan. She knew his smile, his kindness, the way he listened when she spoke, and the way Lily's face lit up whenever he was around. But now she was questioning everything. By the time she arrived home, her phone contained 3 missed calls from Ethan and several messages asking if they could talk. She did not answer any of them. That evening, after Lily had gone to bed, there was a knock at the door. Emily already knew who it was before she opened it. Ethan stood in the hallway, looking far less confident than the executive she had seen earlier that day. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Finally, Emily broke the silence. "How long were you planning to keep lying to me?" The question landed harder than she intended, but she needed an answer. Ethan lowered his eyes briefly. "I never wanted to lie to you. You let me believe you were someone else. I let you believe I was a mechanic because I am a mechanic." Emily shook her head. "You are also a billionaire and the chief executive officer of a company I had never even heard of until today." Ethan nodded slowly. "That is true." She folded her arms. "Then explain it." For a moment, he seemed to search for the right words. "A few years ago, I learned something difficult. Every relationship in my life changed when people found out how much money I had. Business partners treated me differently. Friends treated me differently. Women I dated treated me differently." Emily remained silent. "I started questioning whether anyone actually saw me or whether they only saw my bank account." He looked directly at her. "The garage belonged to my grandfather. After he passed away, I kept it open. I still work there because it is the one place where people talk to me like a normal person." Emily remembered every conversation they had shared inside that small repair shop. "So this was some kind of test?" she asked quietly. "No." Ethan's answer came immediately. "The moment I met you, I was not testing you. I was protecting something I had lost a long time ago. the chance to be known without the money. The sincerity in his voice made it difficult to stay angry. Yet the hurt remained. You should have trusted me enough to tell me. Ethan nodded. You are right. The admission surprised her. There was no excuse. No argument. No attempt to justify himself. I was afraid, he continued. Not of losing the money. I was afraid of losing you and Lily. Emily looked away. Hearing Lily's name softened something inside her. She thinks the world of you, Emily said. A sad smile crossed Ethan's face. I think the world of her too. The room fell quiet again. For the first time since discovering the truth, Emily saw not the billionaire from the boardroom or the mechanic from the garage. She saw the same man she had been falling in love with all along. The only question left was whether she could learn to trust him again. The days that followed were not easy. Emily needed time to process everything she had learned. For the first time since meeting Ethan, she created some distance between them. Yet no matter how hard she tried to focus only on the secret he had kept, her mind kept returning to everything else. She remembered the day he repaired her car when she could barely afford groceries. She remembered the countless moments he had shown up when she needed help. Most of all, she remembered how he treated Lily. None of those things had been fake. None of them required money. One Saturday morning, while Emily was making breakfast, Lily looked up from the kitchen table. Are you and Ethan okay? Emily paused. Children often notice things adults thought they were hiding. Why do you ask? Because he has not visited in a while. Emily sat beside her daughter. We are figuring some things out. Lily nodded thoughtfully. I hope you do. Why? Lily smiled. Because he makes us happy. The simple honesty of the answer stayed with Emily throughout the day. A week later, she received an invitation from Ethan asking if they could meet at the garage after closing. After several moments of hesitation, she agreed. As the sun began setting, she pulled into the familiar parking lot where their story had started. The garage looked exactly the same as it always had. Ethan was waiting near the entrance. Not in an expensive suit. Not surrounded by executives. Just Ethan, the man she had first met on the worst day of her life. They talked for nearly 2 hours. There were no dramatic speeches and no attempts to impress her. Instead, there was honesty. Ethan answered every question she asked. He spoke openly about his past, his fears, and the mistakes he knew he had made. Most importantly, he accepted responsibility for the hurt he had caused. When the conversation finally ended, Emily realized something important. Trust was not built by having no secrets. Trust was built by what people chose to do after the truth came out. Several weeks later, Emily's family gathered once again, this time for a holiday celebration. News of Ethan's true identity had spread quickly. The reactions were impossible to miss. Relatives who had barely spoken to him before suddenly wanted long conversations. Brian seemed especially eager to discuss business opportunities. Ethan remained polite, but Emily noticed something different. None of those opinions seemed to matter anymore. The people who truly cared about him had already done so before they knew about the money. Near the end of the evening, Ethan asked Emily and Lily to join him outside beneath a canopy of winter lights. He looked nervous, which immediately made Lily giggle. I have never seen you nervous before, she said. Ethan laughed softly. Trust me, it happens. Then he turned toward Emily. Meeting you changed my life in ways I never expected. You reminded me what matters. Not success. Not money. Family. He took a small step closer. Emily Carter, would you let me spend the rest of my life proving that I deserve your trust? Tears filled Emily's eyes as she smiled and answered yes. Lily threw her arms around both of them before Ethan could even finish speaking. As laughter filled the cold evening air, Emily realized that the greatest gift Ethan had ever given them was never his wealth. It was the feeling that they no longer had to face the future alone.